On today's episode,
I remember the day of the primary for the special election. One of my colleagues came into my office. I was on the county board. I was the chairman, and said, "So what do you think? Do you think you got a good chance?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I should have. Well, did you pray?" And I go, "Of course." "Well, then don't worry about it. It's in God's hands. He'll decide." And that took a lot of weight off of my shoulders. I couldn't believe it.
Welcome to the Life Challenges podcast from Christian Life Resources. Our world today presents people with complicated issues of life and death, marriage and family, health and science. It can be a struggle to understand or deal with them. We're here to help by bringing good information and a fresh biblical perspective to these matters and more. Join us now for Life Challenges.
hi, and welcome back. I'm Krista Potratz, and I'm here today with Pastor Bob Fleischman, and we also have a special guest with us today. We have Rick Gundrum joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited about getting a chance to talk to you today and doing this episode. At the podcast here, we have done quite a few episodes on politics, and we just recently did an episode on voting and how, as a Christian, can you vote for candidates that maybe are not pro-life, or how do we navigate that? And we've done other episodes of that too, just navigating being in a representative form of government. But we have not had anybody on the other side of it, a politician, somebody in public service.
So there goes the neighborhood.
Yeah. to come and talk to us and how you navigate politics and with your faith and everything to and from that side. And so Bob has known you for a while and has always said, we got to get Rick on the podcast here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into where you are now in public service? And I'm sure our listeners would be fascinated too to know your connection with Bob.
Well, I was born in Nano, Wisconsin, which is on the northwest edge of the county. The family farm was right on the county line at the Five Corners. When I was 2, we moved into the big city of Hartford because my dad had gotten a job at what later became Chrysler Outboard, but it was West Bend Outboard at the time. He was running the farm for my grandfather, and when my uncle returned from the service, he took over the farm, and my dad took the job in the big city. So I grew up in Hartford, went to Catholic grade school, went to the public high school, and then I took 2 years to go to college at UWWC, which is no longer. And from there, I transferred to UW Oshkosh and got a degree in radio, TV, film. And that's how my career began. At that time, had no inklings of ever being interested in running for political office. I did spend some time in Illinois, in Harvard, Illinois, Rockford, and Peoria before moving back to Milwaukee and working for FM 106. I was there for 10 years and then finished up my radio career at WBWI. Those were the call letters at the time, Pure Country 92.5. And then in 2000, I decided to leave the radio profession because I couldn't get my creative license renewed, which doesn't really exist, but they took away all creativity. And so I went out on my own, doing audio and video production and voiceover narrations. And in 2006, I need to back up. I met my wife in 1990. We married in 92. She was the mayor of Mayville, Wisconsin at that time. So she got me turned on to politics, especially when we moved to Slinger, when there was an opening on the county board. She goes, "You need to do a better representation of our district, so you run." And I ran and I won. From there, I also got involved in the Village of Slingers Board of Trustees. And then in 2018, I had an opportunity to run for state assembly. Did that. It was a 4-way primary. I won that. And it was a special election. So I filled out that term and then had to turn right around and run again. So I was in constant campaign mode. And actually, once in, I realized it's pretty much constantly campaign mode because it's only a 2-year session.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 9 years and then decided this April that I would not seek re-election. So,
And Rick and I met, it had to have been, well, I was pastoring over at St. Paul,
right.
which is where Lois is a member, and in Slinger, and that's where I met you.
Right.
And I always remember the conversation at the doorway when you were walking out. You say, "Do you ever want to get together sometime and talk?"
Yeah.
And from there,
Yes.
friendship blossomed.
And I remember that as if it were yesterday, but when we were talking off mic, I look back in my mind, and it was about 2006 that we
Yeah.
actually met.
20 years ago.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh, and I forgot to mention that I grew up a Catholic and still practice the Catholic faith. My wife is a Wells Lutheran
Yeah.
at St. Paul's.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And yes, I can definitely tell you have a radio voice here. So it'll be fun having you on here. Many Christians really wrestle with how involved they should be in politics. From your experience, what does a faithful civic engagement look like in today's world?
I'm finding, or since getting into the state assembly, there are a lot of people, members that are very religious. They're very Christian. They have Bible studies once a week. And there are some Christians in the assembly and Senate that they don't back down. They stay true to their beliefs. And I tend to fall in with that group.
Mm-hmm.
Much to the chagrin sometimes of leadership.
Yeah.
But, and when I announced that I wasn't running again, my staff was the first to tell me that they were very impressed that I never backed down under pressure. And I even got that from colleagues that I didn't even know that well. I would say, you always set a good example. And so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, like how strong is the pressure?
Well, depending on the bill, the legislation, it can be very, very pressurized, for lack of a better term, I guess. But I never buckled from day one, and it got to the point where my name would come up in vain. I was told at executive meetings, what about this Gundrum guy? No, forget it.
Yeah.
We're wasting our breath.
And serving in a political role is hard because as a Roman Catholic, if you had a district which was 100% Roman Catholic, it goes very easy, but you don't have a district like that.
No.
I mean, not only do you have, other conservative Christians, but then you have other liberal Christians, and then you have non-Christian religions, and then you have atheists and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
It's the old melting pot. How do you legislate a melting pot? And I think that's probably what, for me, nurtured our friendship because, I'm a Wells pastor. I head up a group, and a lot of times you've got people who are on the same page that you're working with. Once I started helping out at Concordia University and stuff, then you step out of the pot and into the fire. But you really are in that in a legislature, and that's why, like when you're saying that sometimes the leadership gets upset with you, the other side, your opponents, definitely would be upset with you.
Yes, very much so. And we had some liberal socialist. They're proud to say that they're socialists. That would not say the prayer that we would say to open up the session, and would not recite the Pledge of Allegiance with us. And in fact, for a while, some would be talking to each other while the prayer was going on, and they weren't sitting right next to each other. And so they were told that if you want to do that, that's fine, but stay out of the chamber until we've completed that portion of business. And so that's what happens now.
Wow. So even at that level.
Yeah. I think, and Bob too was talking about how in a representative form of government too, you are representing a group of people, and there are Catholics, Protestants, atheists, all these different people. How do you kind of come at it a little bit in terms of, okay, I have to represent all these people, but I also have my own set of beliefs and my own set of priorities?
When I first got elected to the assembly, I created different focus groups or whatever, but I had a list that I would work from, and there'd be a topic that would be for discussion and maybe become a bill. I had a law enforcement group of all, the sheriff and the police chiefs in my district. So when a bill came forward, I wasn't surprising them, and also I could get input. Not a good idea. Don't go down that path type of thing, or, oh no, this would really, really help. And I did the same thing with clergy. A Catholic priest, Bob. I had a Pentecostal minister that I would reach out to, and others. So I would run ideas by them, especially the abortion bills that would come forward. We had a bill that was going to reduce it. I think it's 20 days now. 20 weeks, and down to 14 weeks. And every clergy that I talked to said, well, I suppose if we have to compromise, that's something we could do. And so I was going to go against my beliefs, because I'm pro-life, no exceptions, until I learned that the governor said, I don't care if it's 18 weeks or the full 9 months, I'm not signing it. And I thought, I'm not going to give up my stance on pro-life, no exceptions, to have, I wasn't going to trade a vote for a baby's life. So I went against the advice of the people I reached out to in that situation. But, and I didn't have any regrets for voting the way I did. We had I call it the pill bill, where the pill can be administered through a drugstore without a doctor's authorization. And I just couldn't get myself to vote in favor of that. I thought there were a lot of unanswered potential problems that weren't addressed. And so there were others that voted no on that, but I just couldn't get myself to do it. And I got a little pressure on that. You're doing this for your colleagues who are in more challenged districts. And so it would really help if you'd come along with us on that, and I get that. That's very important, but I just didn't think that was something I wanted to take on and be sorry for later.
I always thought that was one of the dilemmas that you faced, because relatively speaking, our area is conservative, and not all of your coworkers in the assembly were from such areas, but somehow they got elected, but by a slimmer margin or something like that. And so for them, they have to walk a finer line, and it gets more challenging. But my own personal philosophy was that a lot of times you got elected for who you were. I elected you because you have judgment, and you use what I think is good judgment. And if you had decided in a certain predicament to maybe settle for a little bit less than the full thing, it may not have been my perspective on it, my position for it. But in the end, I look at who you are and who all you ran against, and then I would elect the candidate that whose judgment I respect the most. And I always thought that a lot of people lose sight of that because you get into tough areas. And I know that based on conversations we've had over the years, not all of the issues are simple. If you do this, you make these people mad. And if you do that, you make those people mad. And then you've told me they write very nasty things on your Facebook page.
Or emails.
Or emails, yeah. It's hard. And, we've had... I've known other legislators. You and I have talked about some of them that I know that are part of our church body who have been on the legislature and who are not now. And some of them, really wrestle with. Some of them will wore them out. I mean, because they didn't want to compromise who they were, but at the same time, part of it is compromise. I mean, you're trying to incrementally make your way along, and the other side is trying to incrementally pull you along. And yeah, how do you divide that? And what role did your faith play in all of this? I mean, I know that you're highly principled. I mean, that's also probably a foundation of our friendship. But how does it guide you? How did it steer you to get involved? I mean, there were also 500 things you could have done instead of going into the legislature.
Sure. Many years ago, when I was about 26 years old, I was in.
Well, that many years ago.
I was in a.
Rick and I are the same age. We realize so.
Oh yeah, at 26, I
was in a
too.
very serious car accident, and many people didn't think I was going to survive, but I survived. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, 3 days in intensive care. I remember none of that until I finally came to with all these tubes in me. And I had a lot of time to just lay there and think. And doctors would come in and tell me how severe it was, and that I was out of the woods, that type of thing. And I thought, wow, God wanted me to stay here because he could have just taken me. And so I need to be more loyal to him. I decided at that point I would go down whatever path he would send me. So didn't get into politics right away from that point, but just situations like in church, I was debating whether or not to run for the position, and the homily that day was about how it's okay to take chances, because if you don't, things will pass you by and you'll regret it later. And so on the way home, my wife said, I guess you'll be running. Because it was like that was directed exclusively to me, even though it wasn't. So I decided to run, but I was encouraged by other individuals at that time, and I'm like, well, maybe not. And then I also attended a seminar on business growth and development, and that kind of same message was given that day too, that if you don't take chances when they're there, you may regret it going forward, type of thing. So that's how I made my decision to run. That was the final decision, the homily on a Sunday morning. So
now, do you? You don't have to name names, but are there?
But you can.
But you can. Especially now that you're retiring out of it, so, so it doesn't matter. No. Are there legislators, either on the state level or even on the national level, that you found particularly inspiring, encouraging, somebody whose style you liked? And again, you don't have to name names, but I mean, what is it about them? Or
well, on the national level, I got to spend some time with Jim Sensenbrenner at his town halls. And
he used to show up at CLR events.
He showed up at a lot of things.
Yeah, and I just remember he'd be out glad handing, and
that's where I got my motivation to follow suit on those types of things too. I parades, you name it. Another one was Glenn Grothman.
Who also showed up at CLR events.
Both of those individuals stayed and held firm on their beliefs and weren't afraid to. I remember one town hall that the left-leaning people would show up in droves, and they would grill Sensenbrenner constantly on a topic, and he'd give them answers. And this one lady wouldn't give up, and he goes, "Ma'am, I gave you my answer. It's an answer you didn't like, but that's what it is. So we're moving on."
Yeah, no, I think one of the things I wanted to ask about too was just maybe the difference in local politics versus your experience in the state assembly. What is it? I mean, is there a big difference in that? And what is it?
There are differences, but a lot of business gets done the same way at all the levels. And, and when I first got into the legislature, I'm thinking, we're one big family, but it's all fragmented. and on all levels, I would notice too. Let's say, Bob, you were for a certain referendum or a bill, so you figure, oh, then he's going to like my bill. No,
Yep.
not necessarily. And there are other influences, and a lot of people will come to serve in a position, local, federal, state, with a goal in mind. And a lot of it sometimes is self-deserving, something, if I get on the city council, I might be able to get rid of that building I can't stand near the park, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on small local politics, that happens. I've always been struck by our conversations where you would say, some of the terrible things that people would write you and say to you and so forth, and how sometimes it's hard to even be in public where somebody spots you. And then if somebody's listening to the podcast and they're thinking, I'd like to make a bigger difference, give them a realistic view of some of the compromises you had to make in terms of privacy and so forth, and then also some of the assurance.
Well, as far as I call them nasty grams, I look at that as entertainment, especially on social media. I would never respond to something nasty because that would just fuel the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There are other people that usually jump in and really go after them and let them go back and forth. And so for me, that's, while it's not, it's nasty, it's entertaining. One of my constituents responded to somebody who's always constantly, today is National Take Your Kid Fishing Day, and then they come back with something that had nothing to do with fishing or kids. And so this one guy, he'll come back with stuff. But one time he said, okay, here's the deal, blah, 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 blah. Now go back in your basement where you belong.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, sometimes you don't have to be your own defender.
All right. But as far as people angry and email or call, I would always return the calls or go to their house. I had a friend who moved down to Florida, and he's like, oh, you shouldn't be in politics. They're going to kill you, And so I tell him, yeah, I went to this guy's house, and I'd read the email, and, oh, you took your gun, huh? And I go, no, I don't have a gun. Oh, geez. But one guy was real livid about something. I can't remember. So I came to his house, knocked on the door, and he comes and goes, yeah. And I told him who I was. Who? I told him again, and he goes, oh, yeah. So he comes out on the porch and he sees his neighbor, Charlie, mowing the lawn or something. And he goes, oh, Charlie, he walks off the porch and starts talking to Charlie. He didn't talk to me. So what was he doing? He didn't have an issue, obviously.
Right. He just was looking for some. Well, I think you and I once were talking and said that one problem with social media is that it venerates the one thing that everybody has, and that is an opinion. And it doesn't have to be a good opinion, doesn't have to be a factual opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Just an opinion.
Yeah. And then also I'd call people that sent nasty emails about a topic, and they were completely different when you talk to them. Nice as could be, and because I'm on your side. I supported this and this and this, but the governor wouldn't sign it. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, that really does lean into just the social media. People just do not see the other person on the other end as a person. And so, I mean, it is kind of neat to just hear that you tried to actually talk to people and have conversations with them. And then some of that, just that animosity kind of naturally dissipates when you are face to face.
Right after the 2020 presidential election, people were livid about the cheating and stuff. And so I believe it was Common Sense Citizens had a meeting and requested that all the representatives from the area show up, and they're throwing hand grenades at us and pitchforks flaming, and finally one of the people that was very vocal said, well, I will say this, out of all of you sitting up there, only one of you ever gets back to me, no matter what the topic is. One of my staffers was with me, and I'm thinking, I hope he's got some answers for me. And she goes, and that one person is Representative Gundrum. So I leaned over to my staffer and said, thank you.
Yeah.
So if somebody was running or interested in running for office or wanting to make a difference, would you encourage them?
Sure.
I mean, if they had good judgment and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah. If they were a person I thought could do the job. In fact, I tried to recruit a few people, and one didn't want to do it because the wife said no, even though the family was supportive, and another individual just said, I don't have the time. He would have been great. And another one said, well, I just bought another business, and so now's not a good time, maybe in the future. So,
were you scared when you decided to do it for the first time? Or
well, yeah, to some degree. I remember the day of the primary for the special election. One of my colleagues came into my office. I was on the county board. I was the chairman, and said, so what do you think? You think you got a good chance? And I said, well, I don't know. I should have, Well, did you pray? And I go, of course. Yeah. Well, then don't worry about it. It's in God's hands. You'll decide. And that took a lot of weight off of my shoulders. I couldn't believe it.
The role of a legislator is to serve people. And I think a lot of times when because one of the things that our friendship is built on the fact that I was always impressed with Rick's desire to serve. You have to put up with some stuff, but in the end, you're trying to help everybody, because not every piece of legislation is going to benefit you, but it benefits people in general. And I think that that comes from a strong Christian base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of wanted to just ask too, you talked about how the state assembly too, maybe isn't necessarily chummy. Everyone gets along and that type of thing, a divided family. So I think one of the things that frustrates a lot of people with politics is that people kind of tend to feel like that just bipartisanship is dead. You can't go across the aisles anymore and agree on things. What is your take on that? And is there hope in politics as we move forward with some of that?
Well, believe it or not, a majority of the bills that we pass and get signed into law are bipartisan. The ones that make it seem like nothing ever gets done is the ones that the media takes up, the controversial things. I think it might have been the first floor session I was at. People were going after each other and, saying nasty things about one another. And I'm thinking ooh. And I went in the back to get a cup of coffee. And I look around and these two guys that are going at it are yucking it up and talking about their latest fishing trip. So a lot of that is showbiz. And also, too, the sessions would drag on until the TV cameras started getting turned off, unplugged, and wrapped up, and they leave. Then boom, 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 we start, taking up bills and passing them. But we have the long debate times while the TV stations are there.
Tom Brokaw, the NBC newscaster, wrote a book, and one of it he said, a lot of people don't understand that news doesn't cover the routine. It covers the sensational, the outlandish, the unusual. Because he said normal people aren't interested in mundane stuff,
right?
Know? And so, and I always thought that once news kind of drifted into the entertainment division, of the networks, then we were in trouble. And that's exactly what happens. And that's why, to have a legislator say, we kind of all agree on this and everything, that's not news,
Right.
But if you think, and the other guy's a loser for disagreeing with me on it, no, that will cover. Why? Because maybe they'll hit each other,
Right, yeah.
That kind of a feeling. And that's, which is unfortunate because I think it dramatically distorts the picture. I know when we've talked, you'll describe just things that take place in the legislature, and I'm going, oh, that's not the impression you get from television.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point too, because right now, just the picture painted is this very bleak picture. No one gets along. Everyone is just so ugly and mean to each other and that type of thing. So it is maybe nice to know that that's not the way it is. And is there something like that gives you hope for the future when it comes to politics, or even just Christians' influence on politics?
I am seeing some potential change with younger generations, college age. I have an intern who attends UW-Madison, and he's also, I can't think of what it's called, the person that is in charge of the floor in your dorm room.
Oh, the RA.
RA, yeah.
I was an RA. So.
Okay, all right. So he has a lot of engagement, and
Right.
he says he can see a lot of positive things coming from that. I mean, it's not going to change overnight, but a lot of young individuals are afraid to say something because they don't want to get an F in one of their classes because they disagree with the professor. Closet conservatives maybe is a term that could be used. And then you have groups like the Young Republicans, and I can't think of the name of the other group that's very young that goes into districts and campaigns for candidates and things. Their numbers are growing, and what Charlie Kirk did. He kind of set the path moving forward. It's unfortunate that he's not here with us to, continue, but the people behind him have picked up the torch. And
well, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, sure.
We really appreciate it. This has been very interesting perspective and it's a great chance to get to talk to you about all this today. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and people are wrong about that. Some of you politicians are actually nice people.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. One of the candidates, new candidates, met with a couple of people in the leadership, and he calls me up and goes, "Whoa, they weren't bad at all."
Yeah.
What kills me is people that don't know the individuals. They hate them and just want to sling mud at them, whatever they can do. And well, have you ever met this individual? Of course not.
Yeah.
Well, then how do you know? I just know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well, as I always say, we become so ideologically perfect that we just begin to ignore everything else, including reality sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And we thank all of our listeners, too, for joining us today. And if you have any questions on this topic or any others, you can reach us at lifechallenges.us. We'll see you back next time. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Life Challenges podcast from Christian Life Resources. Please consider subscribing to this podcast, giving us a review wherever you access it, and sharing it with friends. We're here to help, so if you have questions on today's topic or other life issues, you can submit them, as well as comments or suggestions for future episodes at lifechallenges.us or email us at podcast@christianliferesources.com. You can find past episodes and other valuable information at lifechallenges.us, so please check it out. For more about our parent organization, please visit christianliferesources.com. May God give you wisdom, love, strength, and peace in Christ for every life challenge.